Thank you. I think I'm audible enough. So thanks a lot, guys, for joining, and once again, thank you to IMAI for organizing this session. Yeah, and I think the topic of the panel is quite relevant and timely: AI in education, personalized teaching for the masses. We have a distinguished set of panelists here. Um, we have Raghav, who's with Raising Superstars, and we have Abha here. And good to have you also. And I think we'll be talking about a lot of the things which these guys are doing with their startups in terms of personalized training. But very quickly, I just want to sort of start with all of you. Maybe Abha, I'll start with you first. Just talk us through a little bit with respect to, what you do and how you sort of use technology or AI in terms of personalized training, enhanced training. So a very quick, early 2-minute intervention. So over to you.
Very quick, sorry.
2-minute intervention, yeah.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm Abha, CEO for Allen Digital. For those of you who don't know about Allen, we are the most successful test prep company in India, been there for almost 35 years and a rich legacy in academic excellence. If I had to just, talk a little bit about Allen over these 35 years, we've taught about 2.5 million students, really one of the most difficult exams in India, both for medical and engineering. Almost about 20% of students at premier institutes for engineering and for medicine are from Allen. So a very rich legacy in academic excellence. I joined Allen about a year ago to build out their digital business. A lot of our experiences at Allen in the past have largely been in physical classrooms, and we're really bringing in we're bringing in digital and technology to not only enhance the student journey, both for students who are learning online, but also for our students who are in our physical classrooms. So yeah, that's a quick 2-minute about Allen. I'll
We'll
share
come to
more
that.
about AI
Maybe,
as
yeah.
we can.
Rahul, just a little bit about, your startup, what you guys do.
Sure. I'm Rahul Attuluri, co-founder and CEO at NextWave. We help college students and unemployed graduates to become software developers. We are a 3-year-old company. Over the last 3 years, we have helped more than 1,800 plus companies hire students from us. And thousands of students who were otherwise unemployed, we were able to help them become software developers. And we teach coding in vernacular language. So we help students engage with the learning content better so that their retention is better and a lot of other things. And that's what we do.
And Raghav, yeah.
Hey everyone, my name is Raghav Himatsingka. I'm the founder of a company called Raising Superstars. What we essentially do is we tell parents how to raise happy and successful kids. So we target parents of babies and toddlers. We literally start from birth. And we provide them screen-free activities that is accessible on a mobile app to develop all-round skills and abilities at the age of babies and toddlers. It takes only 5 minutes a day. It's rooted in science and early childhood education. So we believe we are a category creator in this space. We started during the pandemic, and we now have customers across 150 countries in the world.
So, Abha, would like to start with you. I think all of you guys have demonstrated that you guys are using technology to basically drive growth, drive innovation and customers, etc. Just want to start with you in terms of the use of artificial intelligence, right? And we were sort of having conversation before this as well. How do you use AI in order to sort of close the gaps, right, with respect to the teaching methodology or augmenting teachers or even just using it as a tool to be able to give more bespoke training? So just take us through a little bit.
Yeah, I'll probably start with just some context, right? So, like when you essentially look at education and what technology can do for education, right? I think there are like 3 axes that matter: quality, cost, and scalability. And if you just see the impact that technology has had in like other service sectors, like say shopping or fintech, they've actually had a disproportionate, technology's actually had a disproportionate impact across all three axes, if you look at the service industry, right? They've really brought in, it has really brought in convenience, personalization. But if you really see like the impact of technology on education, it's actually only solved so far, I would say, that largely for accessibility, right? I think what, and I'm certainly speaking with test prep in mind, that I think with what a lot of edtechs have done is actually be able to put a teacher in front of a camera and have certainly solved for accessibility. But when you think about education, it's a lot about like learning outcomes, and I don't think so far anyone has really focused on learning outcomes at scale. So I'm sharing this because I think this is, in my mind, like edtech will work when technology can truly solve for this, because in education, if there's one thing that matters, it is learning outcomes. So now with that, the way we think about education and test prep at Allen is we think about the full journey of a student. And if you look at the full journey of a student, classroom is just one piece of it. That journey can be online in front of a camera. That journey can be in a physical space. But a huge part of the journey is outside the classroom, right? There is practice, there is assessments, there is doubts, there is mentorship. All of this is happening outside the classroom. And so the way we are approaching this is, how do we really bring technology to solve for this outside the classroom journey, irrespective of where our student is. The student can be in a physical classroom, or the student can be an online student. So we think there's a lot of efficiency that can be brought in for the students, and if done right, it can really lead to a big jump in learning outcomes. So we are actually really personalizing this outside the classroom journey for our students. And this is where we are leveraging AI in a big way. The way sort of we are approaching it is, we've actually built out a knowledge graph where we've mapped prerequisites, if I have to say, across a variety of topics that matter, right? So it's subjects, it's concepts, it's like subtopics, mapping all of them through a knowledge graph, which then empowers us to be able to really double click on where the student gaps are. If a student is failing in a certain area, we are able to say that, is this a careless mistake, or the student is missing a concept? And if a student is missing a concept, is it because the student is weak in what you're teaching right now, or the prerequisite that was required? So you can start to see that if you start building a really deep knowledge graph, you can truly start to personalize the student's learning journey. And that's the direction we are taking with AI.
So, Rahul, I'll come to you. So I think what Abha is talking about is a personalized approach to learning through the use of artificial intelligence. Basically, it's all about data, right? You have the data, you analyze it, you train it, and you have the models telling you, okay, this is the gap, this is how you fix it. How does it play out in the work you do, and how prevalent is it now with respect to the technological advancement which we are seeing in the last few years, in terms of closing these gaps, in terms of improving the efficiency of education learning? Where are we in this journey, and how prevalent is this development?
Sure. So in our case, while there are many use cases where we have been using AI to kind of improve learning outcomes, but probably I'll touch upon one use case, especially that we have started implementing post the GPT stuff that's happening. So in our case, like we have like students coming in from dominantly tier 2, 3, 4 places or colleges. And we also teach coding in vernacular language. So all throughout their learning process, they would be learning things in their own vernacular language, while they will be good at problem solving. They are good at solving coding problems and all of that. One challenge for them is when they'll have to face the real interview. So that's an experience that they would never have before actually getting to the company interviews. And a lot of students, in spite of they being good at problem solving and a lot of other things, the first time they face the interview, so they get kind of frozen, they get a lot of nervous, and some people even think that it's not fit for them. So to mitigate that, what we have done is we have built something called as mock interview as a tool. So assume if I'm attending a company called like TCS, for example. So basis the kind of data that we generated over the years in terms of like, which is generated from a lot of interviews that happened in terms of like, how's the interview experience with a certain company for a specific role and what sort of questions that get asked and all of that. So once the student is done with the course and before they make it to kind of start applying for the companies and start attending the interviews. So this mock interview tool helps them actually prepare for a real interview in the sense that there is a AI simulated interviewer who would kind of act like an assume some specific company X. So act like a real interviewer who would actually start asking questions, and the student would respond to those questions like as if they have joined some Zoom meet or Google Meet sort of a stuff. And again, using off-the-shelf AI products that are available in terms of like speech to text, and once you have the text, we have like GPT APIs to kind of process. So I think we personalize the interviews based on the company as well as on basis of the role, specific role that they have been applying for, and we give that sort of an experience for the students so that the first time they face the interview, they're already practiced or they're already ready to kind of deal with the situations. And post each interview, we also share feedback in terms of how they have done related to each and specific topic, and we also recommend certain action items, certain practice sets which they need to do. So after this, so in our terms, I think our KPIs specifically related to this product would be more in terms of the number of interviews that the student takes before they actually get placed. And I think we are able to improve it by like 4x in terms of assume the student was prior taking like 10 interviews to kind of before he or she gets placed. So I think now we are able to bring it down by something like 2. So that
Through the use of Gen AI.
Gen AI and the mock interview, which we are able to do it, simulate the real sort of an experience because of using AI, where today, again, because of the GPT that's available off the shelf, so we integrated it, and with the lot of data that we gather related to the student as well as related to the company interviews and all of that, so we are able to kind of simulate a real interview experience. So even before the student goes and appears for a specific interview, we already know how he or she is gonna do. And there are a lot of use cases which are still in the pilot phase, which we are yet to implement in terms of like, people specifically coming in from tier 2, 3, 4 places. They do, in spite of how much ever like, sessions we do, they are not well prepared in terms of how they groom or how they should be, in terms of when they face the camera. What sort of background do they have and all of that. So we are now integrating in terms of some bit of like, video processing or image processing, which would also give them feedback in terms of like, how should they look and feel of the interview should happen. So I think, again, there are a lot more use cases, but this is one interesting use case that which we have deployed over the last few months.
It's fascinating how you're able to give a very bespoke diagnosis and give them a direction which is very narrow and which is very clear through the use of technology, and which is
Feedback in my view is secondary, but the primary part is giving the experience of an interview in itself, which technically
as close to a real human as possible.
exactly.
Right. Raghav, you're running a fantastic startup. How are you integrating artificial intelligence, or is it something you're sort of exploring at this stage, or but your business model is something which doesn't require it? But just take us through how you use AI.
So in our business, there are two things that are a little bit different or unique for us. One is that we sell worldwide. So we have a global customer base. And the second one is also that we are in the serving the age group of 0 to 6 years, and primarily 0 to 3 years, where parents are really not thinking about doing anything educational. So when we talk about the global landscape, now imagine somebody is sitting in America or Germany or even like the most remotest part of the world, and they're getting videos in the Indian accent with Indian-looking people, right? And it's nothing to do with discrimination or racism. It's just like people cannot understand our accent. So one of the things that the easiest use case for us is to be able to take a video recorded in any language and be able to dub it exactly like a absolute real feel in any other language or in any other accent as well. And we've been able to do that successfully using off-the-shelf products, and that's working really well. And what would earlier take maybe like a week to shoot one video because you have to write the script, you have to call a director, you have to have a camera, etc., etc. You just record one video, and in 5 minutes it can translate into many languages with perfect dubbing, right? So you can't even tell that it's AI generated.
Text to video,
Text to video does not work so well for us because it still looks artificial. But if you have a real video with hand gestures and like the tonality, etc., then it just does it perfectly, right? So that is one thing. So what it does is that it reduces cost, and as you were talking about cost and scalability, it helps in both, right? And so we can enter new market and at speed. So that's the part about the global nature of what we do. The second is about the age group, which is 0 to 6. Now in 0 to 6, like you don't know what your baby likes, you don't know what your baby wants, you don't know their interests, you don't know what they should be doing, right? So right now, we have a very generic type of a program where we say that we will help your baby or your toddler develop all kinds of skills and abilities at a foundational level in 5 minutes a day. So they are developing all skills. But, and this is not something that we have already implemented, but we think that using AI, we can really see what the baby's or what the toddler or little child's skill areas are and then help them on that path. So our fundamental belief is that, kids learn most of the things at home. So one of my favorite examples is that anybody who thinks they're good at math, for example, right? If they're in the top 10% of the college they attended or the school they attended, if they're in the top 10%, they did not learn math at school. That's just a fact. Do you learn, your dad taught you, your brother taught you, your tutor taught you, somebody taught you at home, they did not teach you. You did not learn it at school. And the reason for that is that a subject like math requires that one-on-one attention. I'm teaching you something, I have to see what you're learning, and then I get that feedback, and then I teach you accordingly. A school is one-to-many. They just teach the same curriculum, and people don't learn. So, and with AI, it gives us that opportunity to bring that one-to-one sort of
more bespoke.
Yeah, learning outcomes at that young age as well. But this is not something that we have already implemented. This is a work in progress for us.
Abha, I want to just talk a little bit about a tailored approach to learning. And let's look at 2 times, let's say the pre-AI or the pre-technological era, where I think what Raghav spoke about, one-to-many. And I think one of the things which schools also tend to do is, okay, if we have a smaller ratio of teachers with students, the learning will be better, right? So how can we get to this more tailored approach for a child who is maybe requiring different type of skill set, or has a different taste, or just requires a different way of learning something? I mean, we've all gone through, schools, and we've done well in some subjects, we haven't done well in some subjects. And it also happens that there are certain tutors who teach you in such a way that you will always do well. Like I remember, I scored well in accounts because my tutor was very good. I mean, it wasn't as much as me, but the tutor was so good that whoever he taught, that guy became very good. So how can we bring that kind of an approach to learning now with the use of AI, knowing the fact that, as the population increases, the ratio or the gap between teachers and students is just going to increase going forward? So.
Yeah. So, see, I genuinely believe that, personalization in education is that holy grail that everyone's chasing, because ultimately you want to, in an ideal state, it's like you kind of have a one-on-one learning experience, right? Like instead of this one-to-many sort of one teacher against many students, the best sort of learning would happen when I kind of have like this virtual coach with me all the time. And so I don't think we are there yet, but like we're on that path. And when I think of that path, right, and I'd spoken about how we are breaking this down as outside the classroom journey and how do we personalize that aspect. So when we look at the different elements that a student does outside the classroom, let's take in the case of test prep, right, assessments is a big thing, right? So in our world, for example, a teacher teaches and the teacher gives homework. Now we're dealing with a very large base of students. There is no way a teacher is going to check that homework on a daily basis, right? So it's in many ways like you should be self-motivated to do the homework, which many of our students are, but they're all seeking, it would be great if I could get that feedback. And today,
Yep.
like using Gen AI, you can do that. I can turn in my homework, and using technology, I am able to tell the student not just, you scored 7 on 10, but I'm able to, using technology, be able to share that you scored 7 on 10, these are the gap areas that you have, you need more work in thermodynamics, or you made this mistake, right? So you can now start giving that kind of feedback one-on-one to the student. Also becomes very valuable feedback for the teachers, because now they can actually action on the weak aspects of a student. That's just, my homework or assessments. A big part of our pedagogy is also the tests that we keep doing. We are now able to look at the mistakes or the gaps that a student has and then personalize that test. So today in our sort of pedagogy, we teach, we give homework and assessments, and then there's a test every 3 weeks, right? Now that test can be personalized. So a test that I get may be very different from a test that Rahul will get, because I have different weak areas that I need to work on. So that's another area where we've brought in AI and personalization to make the test more meaningful. In test prep, doubts is a huge thing. Like actually 30-40% of our students will say that they want instant doubt solving. And we acquired Doubtnut late last year. But now we're also bringing in AI there to be able to, instead of just like throwing a solution right away, how do you have like a hint-based and, kind of like an AI assistant that's helping you walk through your doubts. So as you can see, right, there's many elements in that outside the classroom journey where you can start to bring in personalization. And in some of these areas, we've already made progress, and we are seeing some very good leading indicators of success. So we've been sort of measuring of the personalization that we are pushing out to our students. We've been actually measuring to see what impact is it having on learning outcomes. And even our early analysis showing that students who are adopting some of these features, on an average, we're starting to see 4 to 5% score improvement, which in a space like test prep is huge, by the way, right? It can take you from not being selected to actually having a good outcome. So yeah, those are just some ideas on things that we are working on.
Rahul, on the outcomes, I just want to come in. What has been your learning in terms of using Gen AI or using AI tools? The feedback from the students whom you engage with and you teach and you coach them, preparing them for interviews, etc. What has been their understanding? Because at the end of the day, it's still technology. It's not a human, right? If a human is teaching you, there's a lot more to it. Of course, for the mock interviews, maybe you're doing it in a way that you don't need a human being as well. But at the end of the day, how do you measure the efficiency of the product you're delivering on the ground?
Sure. So when it comes to the mock interview product, I think it's been few months since it's been live, and we record every interview. So I think there is a anecdotal feedback, and there is a objective feedback that we also gather. I keep watching once in a while in terms of how students have the recordings of the interviews, and there are n number of cases where students towards the end of an interview process, the kind of expression that they would give, and in our case it's mostly local language that they use, and they use some words which I can't talk here, but I think though they know that it's like you go into a movie, you know that it's all not true, but you still engage with it, and then you also get emotional, and all the things happen in spite of you knowing that you are going to get into a space which that it's 100% not true. I think using AI today, if you had asked me pre-Gen AI, probably it's a huge challenge, but now with using a lot of off-the-shelf tools that are available, you can create the experience so nice that in spite of the person sitting on the opposite side, in spite of they knowing that it's an AI which is doing it, but after a while they get immersed into it that they don't even realize that, like, it's not on the conscious mind that it is something like an AI which is doing me. They would get into the meat of the product. And once they get into the meat of the product, only after towards the end, they would realize the kind of basis, the experience that they have, they would be quite surprised that, like, how much value that has added, like, for everyone, including me, the first time in my college, like, when I went to the placement, all it was hearsay prior to that, like, interviews happen this way, that way, like, you need to talk in such a way, otherwise, this would happen. So all hearsay that you would listen all throughout, but only after you get to that real interview, you realize that, like, it's a other human who is not trying to kind of, judge you, but actually they are looking to kind of hire you and see and figure out ways to kind of, see what are the best in you. And that sort of a realization, once the students experience it, and they kind of feel that it's a fail-safe environment for us, for them. So the more they kind of keep practicing, they lose the fear of interviews. And once they get to that, like I was mentioning about the metric, like, we are able to cut down on the number of interviews by 1/4 for the same candidate who is skilled enough. But just because we are able to remove the fear of interview, or, like, the nervousness around the interview process, that's the kind of impact. And in terms of, we have also been building certain other AI products into the platform, more related to the personalization bit, which, like, the moment you are in classroom or the session, where because of the kind of data that we gather on the platform, I can say, hey, hi Raghav, welcome to the session. It's good to see you back. And I have seen that, like, over the last few days, you have been doing quite well in terms of the practice. And let's proceed with the today's session. And once I start the session, basis of the knowledge that I have about you, after a while, I can keep asking certain questions, and basis how you answer the questions. Looks like Raghav, I think I might need to kind of take a couple more examples for you to kind of, before we jump to the next set of topic. That's the kind of personalization that we are building. I think we started the journey a couple of years ago, but today it still feels a little bit robotic. That's why we haven't yet scaled it at a mass scale. We still use it only at a specific areas within the product and for specific set of students. But I think over the last years, the kind of technology evolvement is so much that, like, I'm sure, like, probably an year down the lane, the personalized one-to-one teaching is quite possible with just by using off-the-shelf product. You need not even do any AI research as such, but if you're well able to use the off-the-shelf products, I think that you can create the one-on-one learning sort of an experience, which everybody here is aspiring to kind of deliver. And I think once that happens, I think, in my view, I think EdTech is gonna take another next huge shift.
So, Raghav, I mean, if we talk about AI, then this is really augmenting startups as well, not just the end customers, but even businesses, like what Rahul spoke about, or even what Abha was talking about. So how do you see this wave, let's say in the next even a couple of years, not even 5 years, the rate of, the pace at which the technology is growing, the kind of use cases which people are talking about now in this discussion as well. Do you see this augmentation continuously improving, or do you see that at some point of time there will be a ceiling and we have to wait for something else to hit?
So in my view, I think it's almost like a next step in human evolution and also in education, right? And already, if we are seeing in the last 1 year, the AI tools have become, or AI generated content that we use, they've become as good as the human generated content. For example, I was talking about the videos that we use with an AI dubbed feature. And almost 99% of our users say that they like it better than the human content. And the reason is because it's in their language. Because it's in their language, it's in their accent. So, and 99% are saying it's better, not just that they'll use it, but it's better.
Than a native speaker of their own language.
Than the Indian accent original speaker, right? So, and the way that I see it is, if you just think about a skill like reading, right? Human beings have had scripts for the last 5,000 years. But until 150 years ago, only 15% of human population could read and 85% could not, right? And now the statistics are reversed. 85% of people in the world can read and write, 15% cannot. And that has happened through the advent of popularization of education that has happened in the last 150 years, right? Which is a completely different way that human beings are not now viewing their lives, their society, and the evolution. Because the skill of reading and writing was not existent, and we just take it for granted now. And AI is just going to be as important for us, and we just have to accept it, right? There's a lot of people who are scared about AI, what might happen, how might it influence our lives. But the way that I think about it, like when TVs came into our society, people start saying, oh, now TVs have come in, people will not go out, they will not have a workout, kids will have, how will they get exercise, for example? But we have gyms now, which is completely an artificial way to get exercise, but we do have that. So we just have to adopt, and I think it's just that moment in time where we as a society is completely about to change.
Yeah. No, thanks a lot.